Hey everyone, this is Disc Junkie, and today I'm back to talk a little bit about the Serbian porn industry, and more specifically talk about a couple of movies which have, been dwelling into the topic of the Serbian porn industry. I'm not going to talk about Serbian porn films in general, that's not really what this is about. But there are actually three movies which I recently viewed, and thought I would give you a bit of a quick review of the following three titles. Made in Serbia, looking like this. The Life and Death of a Porno Gang. And there we go, sorry about the glare. And last but not least, the one which you're probably figured out by now that I'm going to talk about, which is a Serbian film. Now, before I go on, I just want to mention a big thank you to the good people over at discjunkietv, who were nice enough to send me the first two films, Made in Serbia and Life and Death of a Porno Gang. If you want to own any of these, by the way, you can get them at subdvd.com. Now, none of these are porn films per se. And, I don't really recommend that anyone watch any of these three films based on wanting to see porn. But anyway, first movie, Made in Serbia. It's actually a documentary in the way that the actors in the movie are actually real people. Be it real or fake, I'm not entirely sure where the boundaries are, but it's a documentary about a director making a documentary about the Serbian porn industry. And the main reason for this is that he wants to track down his old girlfriend. That whole part, I don't think that actually happened. I don't think the director of the movie actually dated the porn star. I think that's basically like just some kind of plot that they threw in to make the whole... I don't know. So he makes a porn film, or rather a documentary about the porn industry, to sort of talk to people in the business and possibly, as a sort of goal for himself, track down his old girlfriend and hopefully maybe like win her back or something. So that's sort of like the basic premise of this movie. And out of all the movies, I think I'm actually going to say that this was the one that I enjoyed. Maybe not the least, but I suppose it's interesting in a way to actually see real people in Serbia who work in porn. It sort of dwells on different types of characters. I mean, you got like this one guy who's like like whoever, like John Doe, lives out on the countryside, and he's, really famed locally because people know that he's sort of, he's doing porn on the side, and it's like, it's like a local celebrity. But I mean, none of the people in this movie are particularly good looking. I mean, there are a couple of scenes possibly, but overall, it's sort of like a very sad portrait of the Serbian porn industry. Not that I know if there ever was a particularly happy portrait of it, but you sort of, what I mean. It says on the cover, a loving portrait of a somewhat different industry. And I guess it might be a loving portrait, but I didn't find it too enjoyable. It's a very sort of depressing and not so fun film, I thought. But hey, that's just me. Now, the director of this movie, and I'm not gonna mention his name because I have no idea how to pronounce it, but I will put it on screen for you, so yeah, there it is. The director of this film went on to make another movie, and this is The Life and Death of a Porno Gang. Now, this is a movie which was largely sort of inspired by his first film, and it is not a documentary, it's a fictional story about a director also. His production is sort of shut down. He's having a hard time struggling and making it in the porn business. But so he decides that he's gonna recruit like these out-of-world porn actors, and he's gonna try to take this concept and like turn it into this sort of like a porn circus or like a cabaret, like going on tour, like in this hippie style minivan. You can actually see it on the cover right here if I go in close. Yeah, there you go. So yeah, they basically take this weird group of unemployed porn actors, all shapes and sizes, and go out on the road to sort of sexually educate the common man in Serbia. I don't know, it's a very strange film. I wasn't crazy about this movie, but I thought it was really interesting and quite humorous at times, because it's definitely an artsy kind of movie, worth the watch, because I think it's one of those movies which deserves to be seen. And one of the interesting twists about this, and this is not like a spoiler or anything, is the director is approached by this German guy. You know, he's a very sort of mysterious kind of guy and seems a bit evil to me. And he makes him a proposition. He wants the director to record a snuff film. And if you don't know what a snuff film is, this is a sort of like an urban legend kind of thing, but you know, these things do exist. It does happen, even though, you know, I've never seen a snuff film and I don't think there are a lot of people who have. But it's basically a porn film, or it doesn't have to be porn, but it's a movie where you basically film someone getting killed, actually getting murdered. So you actually have a real person who actually dies for the sake of the movie. That is basically the definition of a snuff film. So obviously snuff movies are sort of, you know, very controversial, obviously, because I mean it's illegal, it's murder just for the sake of film. Hopefully none of you will ever get to see a snuff film, because, you know, I don't think that's something that people should generally be watching, but hey, that's me. So yeah, that's sort of like the twist thing that's interesting about this, how it sort of, you know, starts out as just like this crazy porn sex journey and sort of evolves into this thing where this gang of unemployed porn actors are sort of recruiting people who want to die and generally sort of shoot like this weird sex kind of, you know, scene and then end up killing this person. And I mean, they are coming to them sort of saying that, you know, I want to end my life and I want to do something special with it, and, you know, and they say like, okay, we will kill you on film. It's, I don't know, it's a very, very bizarre movie, but yeah, I actually recommend this because it's definitely interesting, and, you know, nudity and, you know, explicit scenes in this. So, you know, you got, this one pretty much has it all, you know, you got male, female, transsexuals, and whatever, you know, most stuff is visible in this. So, yeah, if you don't like strong, explicit scenes, this is not for you. But if you want to see an interesting movie worth talking about, I think you should check out The Life and Death of a Porno Gang. Now, finally, this is probably the movie you want to hear me talk about. Because know this is a movie that just everyone talks about. And it's not a movie that I generally recommend to anyone. I want to make that clear. I've only seen it once. And my initial thought about this and a movie, which is a Serbian film, is that I'm not going to say that it's a bad film, because technically, I mean, if you look at like the whole, you know, director's approach and style and visionary, you know, visuals, this movie has a lot going for it, which is sort of the thing that makes me really split in terms of, you know, what I actually think. But when I just saw it, I just thought that, you know, this is, I don't think anyone should see this, basically. This stuff doesn't get you. You definitely should seek help or something, I don't know. This was really, you know, really unpleasant at times. Don't really, you know, take offense easily or look away from the screen or whatnot. Don't really think I really did at this either, but it was sort of like, geez, do we really need to see that? Is that, you know, is that necessary? Which is the problem with this film, is that we generally get to see too much. That's also the thing I want to mention before I talk about the story, that this is a movie which is actually banned in both Spain and Germany. It used to be like cut basically in every country in the world. I mean, in UK, for instance, it's out on DVD, but it's cut. This is the Swedish DVD version. It's also available on Blu-ray with the identical cover. This was one of the first editions to come out that was completely uncut, and it's interesting because in Sweden films don't generally get banned, you know, today. But what's interesting about this is that this was actually, even though it's like a regular movie, it's not a porn film per se. It's a fictional story. It actually has a story, and it's not really considered as a porn film, more like a very extreme horror movie. What's crazy about this is that this movie actually got rejected by a lot of companies. So there were a lot of online stores who just refused to have this in their selection. And that, my friends, is really, really unusual for Sweden. Now, as far as the story, we get to follow this sort of legendary porn star whose name is Milos. He's sort of retired from the porn business. His glory days are sort of over. But then, you know, his past comes back to haunt him, as it tends to do in these kind of horror movies. He's approached by this new sort of crazy porn director who wants to do like the new thing with Serbian porn. You know, sort of comes to him saying that, you know, okay, I got a lot of money and I want to use you for this movie. We're doing the latest, strangest things in porn. You know, it doesn't really explain exactly what he wants him to do, but we sort of get the feeling that, you know, this is not going to end well. I mean, you can expect that there's some kind of snuff element to the story, but I don't really want to give away as to what the whole sort of big finale is about. But it is... This is a very extreme movie. I don't really recommend that anyone see it, especially not if you're underage. You should at least be 18, in all honesty, to see this movie. And even there, I don't think... You know, I don't actually recommend you watch this. You know, even though technically it's a good film, the story is good, the visuals are really good. I mean, both effect-wise, if you look at like the gore scenes, you know, it's very hard to watch because it's so well done. And I think that's also one of the things which makes it unique, because it feels like it's a very expensive, I don't know if it is expensive, but it feels like a very expensive, well-made movie, extremely dark, but it's got the visuals. And you know, some of the directors that sort of come to mind are people like David Lynch, for instance, which, you know, tends to make these really surreal, dark movies. And this is surreal and dark in that way. And if you've seen David Lynch's movie Lost Highway, which is, in my opinion, his all-time best film, there's a character in there called the Mystery Man. And the Mystery Man is basically this weird guy who was played by Robert Blake, I think is the actor is called, who's essentially sort of like some kind of movie maker, some kind of, you know, self-made director who makes these really weird porn films or, you know, self-made snuff films. We don't really know. And throughout the movie there's, you know, you never really get to see any of his movies, but, you know, the hint and the story about his films is always there, as, you know, he's being one really perverted and weird, crazy guy who makes these really strange and horrific movies. And when I saw this, the first thing that came to mind, like, if the Mystery Man actually existed, I think this is the kind of movie that he would make. This thing is so fucking dark, and I know that a lot of people are probably gonna try to get hold of this and watch it just based on me talking about it as being this extreme. And, you know, you do what you want, but I mean, if you don't generally like extreme movies, this is not for you. I mean, if you like a movie like Saw, or if you like Seven, this is not for you. If you're a fan of stuff like, I don't know, grotesque and films like that, okay, then we're, you know, sort of in that genre. But even there, you know, not recommending this to anyone, because, yeah, I just think it's too extreme. It's, you know, the Achilles heel of this movie is the fact that it looks so fucking good. And I mean, I'm looking at it, I'm like, wow, this film is like, in its genre, it's like one of the most visually interesting and stylish looking perverted films I've ever seen. But in terms of, you know, the story, you know, I like the story about this ex-porn star who's sort of, you know, being pulled into a weird situation and is sort of forced to do things that he really doesn't want to do, but, you know, he wants to get money for his family and sort of, you know, get out of the business once and for all. He figures like this is his big payoff where, you know, he can sort of do this one job and sort of be retired and live life in a big mansion somewhere and just take care of his family. But then it all just goes to hell. I mean, the acting is really good in this. The main actor, and I'm not really sure what his name is, he does a great job, and I think that, you know, all the actors involved are, you know, very well suited for their roles. And, you know, if you're wondering, like, you know, oh, okay, what's dark, you know, what am I gonna see in this? I mean, first of all, obviously you have full frontal nudity. gore and blood, like people cutting their genitalia, people being killed from sex basically, or people dying, people being murdered, explicit sex, I can't remember, I'm gonna say rape, I don't know. It's such a perverted, weird film, and I mean you also got these really, you know, weird sub-genre porn elements going on, like, you know, sex with pregnant women, and obviously the scene which is probably the most famed, a man having sex with an infant baby. And you know, now we're getting into child pornography, and I'm not even gonna mention that. I just, you know, want to mention that that's the kind of things that is actually part of this movie, and you know, for that I think that it just goes too far, and it's not enjoyable anymore, because it's just, you know, it's hell on celluloid basically, and I don't really think that people should watch this. I'm glad that I watched it, because I want to know, you know, what kind of things are out there and what people are talking about. But yeah, I don't think people should be watching this really. But if you do want to, and I'm not, you know, like I said, you can get this at subdvd.com. I also know that America is getting an uncut release of this fairly soon, I think. And yeah, totally lost my trail of thought there. But yeah, that's the last movie that I'm talking about today. A Serbian film. Don't watch it, because it's just damn fucking dark. And unless you have a really broken mind and you know, destroyed soul, like maybe I do, you know, you will be affected by this movie. Then again, if you're a person who like, you know, the extremist of the extreme, I highly suggest you give this a watch. And now I'm contradicting myself. Fuck it! That's it for today. Really hope you enjoyed this little talk. I think all of these movies are basically movies that you should watch by yourself, because I mean they're all about the Serbian porn industry, and I don't think you want to watch that with your friends. So yeah. But that's it from me. Thank you very much for watching, and as usual, hope to see you all next time.